should seem easy to solve, but just 5 weeks ago, a half a mile from here, there was a guy that had just gotten out of prison. He had a restraining order. He shouldn't have had a gun. He killed his wife, his girlfriend. He killed our club member, Armand Johnson Jr., 6-year-old. He killed his wife's girlfriend's 2-year-old, and then killed a brother of one of our staff members. It's not the first loss we've seen, and I hope it's the last, but I doubt that it will be. But there's nothing more urgent in saving our people's lives than working on this issue, and I'm so pleased to introduce Senator Brown because he's really out in front of it. I think if he had his choice, he'd be back in Washington with lawmakers trying to pass something that made a difference. So it's my pleasure to introduce our neighbor who lives just up the street, friend to all of us, and somebody that I think is really working hard to try to make a difference with this issue. So Senator Brown, welcome to the Boys and Girls Clubs.
John, thank you. Thanks all of you for being here. Thank you for your activism. Thank you for speaking out. You could be a lot of other places today, and thanks for greeting Connie and me as we came in, so many of you. Thanks for your repeated calls to your legislators, to House and Senate in Washington, and calls to the state legislature and to the governor. That all matters at a time when, frankly, the gun lobby has far too much power in Columbus and in Washington, and we know that's what we're up against. We know there are a lot more of us than there are of them. The problem is their money and the fear that they create among far too many politicians. Last week, after I went to Dayton Sunday, that's the Sunday of the shooting, I spoke to the mayor, and Connie and I drove down that day and to talk to people and to visit people. 2 days later, when the president came, I wrestled with whether I wanted to go and join the President of the United States at the hospital. Normally I would, but when I see the kind of bigotry and racism and the talk and what this president creates among far too many people and the hate speech, I wasn't sure I should go. The mayor called and asked me to go. I went. I saw the president at the hospital, and I went partly because the mayor wanted me to, but I mostly went because I wanted to look the president in the eye. I'd already called for McConnell to call the Senate back in session and pass the bill the House had passed, the bill that called for background checks. But I wanted to look the president in the eye and say to him, stop the talk like this. We need you to call McConnell. We need you to promise you'll sign this bill. We need you to ask McConnell to pass it, and we need you to promise you'll sign it. He, of course, didn't do that, but I thought it was important I say that. Mayor Whaley also weighed in to say the same thing. So I think it's starting to rain. I guess you figured that out, right? So this speech was going to be short anyway. It's going to be a little shorter, but we know that it's not just mass shootings. It's shootings in this neighborhood. It's gun violence. There are too many guns on the street. There are a lot of things we need to do. The most important thing to do is pass common sense gun legislation. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Brittany Dalton and I'm from Cleveland Heights, Ohio. And it is an honor for me to be here today to tell you about the day I was shot and how it changed my life forever. On February 15th of 2018, the day after Parkland, my son and I were driving to pick his brother up from preschool. And we took a detour to check out a community garden behind the school, and we were caught in the middle of a drive-by shooting. It was a retaliation shooting. 3 bullets came within inches of hitting my son's head, 2 hitting me, and the 3rd was found lodged in my preschool son's car seat, who, had he been with us, would not be here today. My life and the lives of my kids will never be the same, and I represent the 58% of Americans who have said they or someone they care for have experienced gun violence in their lifetime. And today I am full of hope that together with the strength and determination represented by each one of you in this audience, that we can create a future free from gun violence. We should all live and be free without the fear of being shot. Gun violence has torn apart the lives of countless Americans, While no one law can stop gun violence, there's so much more we can do to keep our families safe. The House of Representatives has already acted and passed H.R. 8, a bipartisan bill to require background checks on all gun sales. And it has been over 5 months since the House took action, and now it is time for the Senate to take action and pass background checks on all gun sales in a strong red flag bill. Every day, 100 Americans are shot and killed, and hundreds more are wounded, and that's including the 22 people killed and the 26 people injured in El Paso, Texas, the 9 killed and 27 injured in Dayton, Ohio. But it's so much more than just these mass shootings that make, national news. In recent weeks, gun violence has devastated Cleveland, Maple Heights, Baltimore, Chicago, St. Louis, Gilroy, Canoga Park, Newport News, and Brooklyn, and I could keep going on and on, unfortunately. There are countless other communities that are devastated by gun violence every day. Each year we see tragic statistics that represent thousands of lives that were cut short and forever changed by gun violence. We know there are over 22,000 suicides per year. We know that at least 2,700 women were shot to death by an intimate partner. And we know that there are more than 12,000 homicides by gun. And we also know that firearms are the leading cause of death for Black children and teens. This is a public health crisis that demands urgent action. We need our lawmakers to support common sense gun laws that prevent tragedies like this. The U.S. Senate has failed to take action, and even as our colleagues in the House have passed these bipartisan common sense gun violence prevention legislations. My nose is a little wet, sorry. But Americans and community partners are joining together this weekend and making a commitment to encourage, support, and work towards solutions to save lives from gun violence. We are here to say enough. Enough to the gun violence that continues to permeate our schools, churches, theaters, homes, and neighborhoods. My story is part of this American problem. Gun violence ravages too many families and neighborhoods. It disproportionately affects communities of color, women, and marginalized groups, including the LGBTQ community. We know each day in America that hundreds of people are wounded, both physically, psychologically, and emotionally, and will live with the lifelong process of coping with that pain, healing, and surviving. But I have hope that one day Black men won't be 13 times more likely to be killed with a gun than white men in this country. I have hope that one day survivors of domestic violence will not have to live in fear because their abuser has access to a gun. I have hope one day our country will not suffer a gun suicide rate that is 8 times higher than our peer countries. And I have hope that one day our children will be able to live free of the fear of gun violence, not only inside their classrooms, but while playing outside and walking to and from school. I have hope one day all gun homicide cases will be solved and grieving families will receive the justice that they deserve. And I will fight for this day to come. While you've heard my story, I'm not the only survivor here today fighting for change. At this time, I want to take a moment to recognize all survivors. If you are comfortable and able, I ask anyone who has been personally affected by gun violence to raise your hand. We do this work to prevent anyone else from having to feel the pain you have felt. Thank you for being here today. We will be the change we want to see in this world, and thank you for being part of the change with me. I would like to introduce Mitty Jones. She's a fellow survivor from the Cleveland area. Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Mitty Jones, and I am here because I am a survivor. I'm a survivor of the loss of a loved one, my great-nephew who moved from the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan to Arlington, Texas in 2014. Shortly after he turned 21 in 2015, he was shot and killed in a crime that has never been solved. And I'm one of those people who are really not only sad because we missed him, but because we have not been able to get justice for him, which is too often the case for young African-American men whose lives are viewed as disposable. I've had enough. Have you had enough? We are tired of waiting. We are tired of asking. We are tired of being mad. We are tired of being sad. especially when we know that there are solutions. We've had enough. We've heard enough. We demand action. If you're angry, frustrated, heartbroken, let me hear you say, enough, enough, enough. If you know that we can do more to prevent gun violence impacting all communities, especially communities of color, tell our lawmakers now, enough, enough. If you demand that our senators take action to address the alarming rates of gun suicide, then let me hear you say, enough, enough. If you want to disarm hate, which is attacking people of faith and our LGBTQ community members who are just trying to live their best lives, and our neighbors, tell our senators, enough, enough. If you are tired of listing the cities, including Cleveland, including Detroit, that have experienced one mass shooting after another, more deaths after another. What's going on? Tell our senators, enough! Enough! If you're tired of working harder and harder than our lawmakers seem to be to prevent gun violence, tell them, enough! Enough! If you are pledging to do everything you can, everything in your power to end gun violence, tell me enough! Enough! If you are going to use your voice and your vote to ensure that we elect a Congress that will take action, tell Congress, enough! Enough!
Tell Portman!
We will not stand idly by while 100 people are shot and killed in this country on a daily basis. We will not stand by while this nation pays attention only to incidents of gun violence when the toll of death is unbearable. 100 lives lost a day is not acceptable. City gun violence is overshadowed, and we've had enough. Tell Congress to change. Make a change. Enough! 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 Okay, at this time, it is my pleasure to bring up our next speaker, Chris Eggert, and my phone has gotten wet. Okay, Reverend Chris Eggert is the executive director of an organization that she will have to tell us about because my phone, I think, has just died. It got wet. Chris Eggert, would you please come up? Oh, sorry about that.
A woman who needs no introduction, apparently. I am Reverend Chris Eggert, and I am the co-founder and director of an organization here in Cleveland, God Before Guns. And though you can't see it, thank you, so you can't see it much, I have worn this orange stole in the pulpit for victims of gun violence far too many times. Now, if I came up here this afternoon and told you that as a reverend, I was here to bring you thoughts and prayers. If I said thoughts and prayers, what would you do? Go ahead. Boo. Yeah, deservedly so. However, we are people of faith at God Before Guns, and that's where we start, is with prayer. We just don't stop there. We believe that when people of faith stand up and speak out, that they are a powerful force. So our prayers are for courage, determination, and persistence in honoring the sanctity of every single life and saying not one more life will be stolen by a gun. Not one more. Also lead us to speak out against our country's obsession with guns, and we promise that we will take action to end it. And our action today is to be here as supporters of Ohioans for Gun Safety. Ohioans for Gun Safety is a grassroots organization that is putting forward a proposal to close the loopholes in background checks in Ohio. How many of you all have already signed a petition today? Okay? If you haven't signed it, you have an opportunity. The petitions are here. You can take action, sign them. They're at our God Before Guns table. People are walking through the crowd with them. Now, we are aware of the talk in Columbus that the Ohio Assembly might consider background checks this year. Hallelujah, if that happens. That would be a great step forward, but we are far from confident that anything will be passed. That's why we will be busy and keeping up the pressure. In case that doesn't happen, we will let our citizens decide background checks in Ohio by this ballot initiative. So sign the petition today, and if you want to be someone who will work to circulate the petitions, there's a sign up for that also at our God Before Guns table. And if you do that, that will be an answer to our prayers. Thank you. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Natalia Alonso. Natalia is the founder of Los Niños de Corsos, which she organized while she was a student at Ross High School in Fremont. That organization, Los Niños de Corsos, that campaign, serves the families who were affected by the ice raid at Corsos in Sandusky last year. Natalia now also serves as the teen ambassador on the board from the Attorney General's office. Please welcome her warmly.
Hi, everybody. So the immigrant community is not only affected by raids, but now we are affected by mass shootings. Immigrants have been targeted in these hate crimes, alongside with many others who are innocent and do not deserve to be targeted by such an awful death. The immigrant community is scared. We're scared to walk out into the streets, alongside many of our students. This is wrong. We should go to school ready to learn, not ready to prepare ourselves in case of shooting. No, that's not what education is about. The immigrant community, the immigrant children are also being affected by this. They're scared that their parents are going to work, and they're scared that one day they won't come back, not only because of the raids, because somebody probably wants to shoot them, because they are immigrants. One thing is raids, and one thing is mass shootings because of hate crimes. But it doesn't just have to be black and gray. We can do something that they can't. We can do something that the immigrant community is not allowed to do. We can vote. We can act. So, I ask you all today, are we going to vote? Yes! Are we going to disarm hate? Yes! We can vote. We can make a difference. We can do it. Thank you all. I appreciate that you guys came out here and are still here, even though it's raining very hard. Thank you all.
Thank you, Natalia. And now I would like to introduce Maureen Washock with Moms Demand Action to give us some more action items. She's soaking wet, and thank you all for standing in the rain.
I do have an umbrella, but it's in the car. Thank you guys all for staying and braving the rain. I really appreciate everyone being here. As Molly said, my name is Maureen Washock. I am the state membership lead with Ohio Moms Demand Action. I took action and joined about 4.5 years ago when my daughter joined preschool and I found out they were going to be having active shooter drills. In addition, the same month, we lost 3 children in Cleveland under the age of 10 to gun violence. And that was it. I looked online, I found moms, and now they give me a microphone to talk to all of you. Last week I marched on Washington. It's been great. So I am here to talk to you guys about what are you going to do next? I read an article the other day that said that advisors to the president are hoping that by the time the Senate comes back in session, the momentum will be gone. But we're not going to let that happen. This is not a moment. This is a movement. We are ready. We are organized. There are more and more of you coming forward every single day to take action. I have had it. I know that you have had it. I am sick of living in fear. My daughter, who is the one that I joined for just a few years ago, is now in first grade. And at her first active shooter drill, I asked her how it went. And she told me it was great. Everyone has a place to hide. I get to be under the backpacks. And it's statements like that that tell me, and I know that all of you have similar stories, and we're not going to give up. When the Senate comes back in September, we are ready. They will hear from us, and they will hear from us in the meantime. It is not just the mass shootings. It is that 100 every single day that are dying to gun violence. 1,400 a year in Ohio alone. That is insane, and it needs to stop. So, the action item, which you may have seen posted around here, is to text the word CHECKS, CHECKS, to 64433. And this will connect you directly to Senator Portman's office. I know that some of you out there have every single one of his offices on your speed dial. I know that you call him every day on your way to work, that you leave a message. I have not forgotten. But I also know that there is a lot of you out there who have never made that call. And you're nervous about being asked questions or how to do it. And so I'm going to show you how. It is incredibly easy. So here, let's all, and you can do this with me right now if you would like. It's very easy. I'm going to open up my texting, and I'm going to text to the number 64433, and it is the word CHECKS. And when you send it, you are going to get an automatic reply that says respond with your zip code. And this, by the way, is one of the things that I really love about moms because they make this so easy for you. It is fantastic. If you have signed up for, and see now they're calling me and it's going to connect me and I'm going to hand it over to Liz who's going to tell me when it's time to talk. But when you get that phone call, they're then going to tell you what to do. So walk you through it. If you are nervous, they're going to say, here's what you need to do. The very first thing is identify who you are and that you are a constituent. The next thing is what it is you're calling for. And the message that Liz is listening to right now is telling her that we are going to ask the Senate to take action on background checks and pass a strong red flag bill. These are evidence-based solutions that we know from other states that have enacted them will help reduce gun violence and bring that 1,400 number down in Ohio and across the nation. It is so important, and we're going to tell him all about it. So this morning I called to see what office it was directing to because as the avid callers know, sometimes the voicemail is full. It was not full this morning, and they had redirected it to his Cincinnati office, which is probably still where it is directed now. And when you get connected after hearing that message and it automatically calls for you, you're going to get his office message where then you can leave a voicemail. And to me, if you are nervous and you've never called before, this is the perfect time to do it because it's a voicemail and you don't have to talk to anybody. So if you want to call and be nervous about it, the best time to do it is around 7 a.m. while you're getting ready, having your coffee before you go into work. After 5, when you know that they have signed out for the day, or on the weekend. Make it a thing that you do every single day. When they come back in September, our voice is going to be louder than the NRA. Hello, Senator Portman. My name is Maureen Washock, and I live in Mayfield, Ohio. I am calling you today because I am concerned with the stark numbers that are dying every day in our country and here in Ohio to gun violence. There are solutions that are evidence-based that are ready for you to take action on today. I want to thank you for your comments most recently, saying that you support background checks and red flag laws. But I really want you to do more than that. I want you to sponsor it. I want you to vocally be out there campaigning for your colleagues to join on with you. And I happen to be standing in Cleveland, Ohio, with a crowd of a couple hundred people braving the rain who want you to do the same. Say hello, couple hundred people. Senator Portman, it is not too soon to take action. It is too late. We are here to tell you that it is time that you do something. Right? Could you easily do this every morning right after you brush your teeth? Could you do this on the way to work every single day? You don't need to have his number in your phone. You just have to know that we have these handy texting lines. Now, some of you are saying, okay, that was awesome. What do I do next? You volunteer with us. We have a ton of different things. Whatever your passion is in this movement, we have a spot for you. If you want, in that same number, that 64433, you can text the word commit, that you are going to commit to working here locally to end gun violence. There is a survey that will come to you that asks you what it is that you're interested in. Fill that out, and then in a couple days, I'll do something that I'm much more comfortable with, which is sit behind the computer and pull up all that information, and then we will plug you in where you want to be and where we need you to be. So without further ado, I get the great pleasure of introducing our next speaker, who I had the pleasure of hearing from about 3-ish years ago at our Wear Orange event, where he was talking to maybe a couple dozen people, but look around, are we not winning this? Look how many of you there are today. So Dr. Barksdale, I asked him, I said, how is it that you would like to be introduced? And he said, I am George's son. And I thought that was so amazing. But he is also UH Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital Division Chief of Pediatric General and Thoracic Surgery, and he often spends his days in the aftermath of what is all of our worst nightmare. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Hello, everyone. My hat has to go off to Moms Demand Action. Thank you for putting this together. And also, my hat has to go off to you for weathering this storm. I am actually lucky. I called the angels and asked them to let a little bit of sunshine on this great audience. So, great. Senator Brown, Representative Ryan, thank you for participating in this event. For those of you who don't know me, and I think most of you don't know me, my name is Ed Barksdale. I am the Chief of Surgery at Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital here in Cleveland. And for the... Thank you. That goes to my mother. For the last 35 years, since I graduated medical school, I have been dreaming of being a great pediatric surgeon, taking care of cancer, taking care of unusual things, which I do. I don't know if I'm great. But what I never thought I would do 35 years ago when I left Harvard Medical School was to take care of kids who had been shot by other children. And something is absolutely wrong with that. So I come to you today not as just a pediatric surgeon, a pediatric trauma surgeon, or a child advocate, or a father of 4. I come to you as a committed citizen, asking you, with me, to ask our lawmakers to make a difference and to demand change. I hope this isn't offensive, but when I grew up in Virginia, right next to my mother's bedstand was a table, and in the top drawer was always a loaded gun. I never touched that gun. My father also had a gun. I do not own a gun. But I want to say to those people who may be here or who are in earshot, I don't want to take away people's guns, but I do want responsible gun ownership. I also want people to focus on firearm safety. So let me tell you a little bit about the worst 2 weeks of my life. And that may help you understand, well, why I'm here, why I do the things that we do in speaking. Because I want us to work to the end, and I want us to believe that no child should face a future of fear from being the victim of guns in their homes, in their schools, or in their communities. Let me tell you about the last 2 weeks of October of 2015. During that period of time, I took care of 4 children of 5 who were shot in Cleveland, under the age of 11. 3 of the 4 that I took care of, and 1 that I was expecting, that I didn't get, died as a result of their gunshot wounds. And the one that I remember most was a 6-month-old girl who had been shot in the chest in a drive-by while she was waiting in the car. She came into our emergency room. My partners were there doing everything they could do humanly and medically possible to bring life back into this beautiful caramel-colored angel. All without success. And as I sat and looked at that child, I really felt guilty. Not because we couldn't save her in the trauma bay, but that I had not done enough to save the community, to prevent this from happening, such that an illegal gun or a gun in the hand of a teenager would lead to this outcome. I will always remember her mother's blood-stained dress, and I will remember the tears that I quietly wept in front of her, and just I couldn't hold in completely until I got back to my office. So I tell you this not to really make you feel sad, but to, in some ways, to make you feel anger and to make you feel a commitment. Because when we watch gun violence on TV, it is never quite the same as when we are a victim, as the survivors are here. It is a much different feeling. And that I hope that you will recognize that you have power to make a difference, more so than anyone in the medical community does. And I take my hat off to first responders, my colleagues in surgery and medicine and emergency room, and social workers who do everything that they can to help. So I would like to invite you to 5 action items. And unlike the powerful action items that were mentioned before, mine are kind of a little more, if you will, egghead, as my daughter would call me and say. But I think that it will help you understand what we need to do. So the first thing that we need to do is that we need to get our politicians, we need to get people to recognize that firearm injury is a public health crisis. And it is a crisis of epidemic proportion. We need to put the best minds, strategies, and approach to make things better. And just thinking that it will go away when people come back from their recess, that's not going to make it go away. The second thing, and this kind of focuses more in the realm that I work in, but we need to push our legislators and we need to push our philanthropists to put money toward research. Because although we're here thinking about guns, what I see is that it's violence and it's hate that leads to picking up the guns. And we need to not only do research to prevent guns and limit guns, we need to do the research to look at what's promoting violence. It's not all mental health. It's hate. It's the social determinants of health. It's growing up with dilapidated buildings in your area and with no food on your plate. These are the things that we must address. We're not going to get rid of this violence epidemic, this gun epidemic, if we don't address those social determinants. So recognition, research. The third is that we must engage and acknowledge and collaborate in constructive dialogue with those who don't have the same opinion that we do. Because we will never be successful unless we engage those gun owners in the solution. And even those gun owners that resist us, we must engage them in the solution. The third thing is that we've got to empower the medical community. There's some states like Florida that won't let a physician talk to his patient about, is there a gun in the home? Is there firearm safety? We have to empower our medical professionals to do those things that we are trained to do in order to make a difference in the lives of our patients. And the fifth thing, for me, is probably the most difficult. But we have to commit that this is what we are going to do. So as I close, I'm kind of an old guy, and so I was still I was alive when Martin Luther King actually spoke in 1963, and I'd like to close with one of his famous quotes that I like, and what he says is that we're now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We're confronted with the fierce urgency of now. That there's such a thing of being too late, and I'm afraid that we may be getting to be too late, and that there is no time for apathy or complacency. This is a time for vigorous, positive action. So Columbine, Newtown, Parkland, El Paso, Dayton, Chardon, and Cleveland, these are all our towns. Let us not just rally today, but commit to constructive dialogue, genuine collaboration, and committed action. Thank you for allowing us to speak.
Thank you, Dr. Barksdale, and I was also that was our very first Wear Orange Gun Violence Awareness Day event, and I consistently come back to his words when doing this work. My name is Molly Crow. I am one of the organizers with Liz Harmath of this rally, and I really want to thank you all for coming out, especially staying with us in the rain. But the sun is out, and I hope that's a good sign of things to come. During the 2016 election, I met Congressman Tim Ryan as he campaigned for Hillary Clinton. I thanked him for taking part in the 2016 House of Representatives sit-in, demanding a vote on gun violence legislation after the Pulse shooting. We spoke about the need to pass some of these common sense and highly popular measures, and I gave him one of my Red Moms bracelets. A few weeks later, I joined a group of Moms members. We traveled to Youngstown for a Hillary rally. We spotted Congressman Ryan in the back of the room, and of course, one of our moms, members went over to thank him again. She returned a few minutes later and said, "You know, when I tried to give him my red mom's bracelet, he held up his wrist and showed her that he already had one on." And we knew that we had a gun sense champion in the House of Representatives. And now we have a gun sense majority in the House. And last week, in the wake of the El Paso and Dayton tragedies, he proved it once again when he led the caravan of change from Ohio and other surrounding states to rally in Mitch McConnell's hometown to demand a vote on background checks. It is my great pleasure to introduce to you Congressman Tim Ryan.
Thank you so much. How about a round of applause for all the moms who didn't get their name called out here today, but had something to do with this rally? It's always great to share the stage with my friend Senator Sherrod Brown, who's here, who's been a champion on this issue for many, many years, and Connie Schultz, who has been writing about this for a very long time. Joseph Campbell, the great comparative mythologist, said, "Revolutions aren't about breaking things. Revolutions are about bringing forth things." And this movement, at its core, is about bringing forth something new, something different, new values that aren't espoused necessarily today in the highest levels of our government. It's about us being together and not divided. It's about us campaigning for things that are bigger and greater than anything we could just do on our own, about values that are bigger than ourselves, other than ourselves. And so I'm here more than anything to say thank you to all of you, because this is not the end. This is the beginning of something very special in the United States of America. We are going to change the way we do things here, and we're going to start putting the people first. And the lobbyists and the money and the high-powered, they're going on the back burner, not the people of the United States any longer. We're in Northeast Ohio. I'm an old quarterback, so I only know one way to do things. And that's play offense. Be proactive. We have allowed the NRA to define this discussion for 25 or 30 years. They've been the ones defining it. And now the moms and the kids and the people of the United States are going to define this debate, and we're going to win this debate. We are no longer satisfied. We're no longer satisfied with a country of fear, a country of hate, a country of division. When we went on the caravan, we started in Niles, and we went to Akron, and then we went to Columbus. And when we were in Columbus, there was a Latina woman who came up to me, and she was scared to death after El Paso. And she was saying that her whole community in Columbus is afraid because tomorrow night started the Latino Festival in Columbus. And her community was afraid to go to their own church festival. This is not how we want to live in the United States of America. We want better than that in the United States of America. And these rallies today are about us saying, we will no longer be afraid. We will no longer be afraid. You can't intimidate us. You can't push us around. You can't put us on the back burner. We have ideas. We have legislation. And you're either going to pass them or your ass is going to be out of office. And we're going to go campaign all over the United States in these key Senate districts. It's not just about phone calls, although those are very important. It's not just about letters. It's about those nonviolent protests that got us civil rights passed in the United States of America. We are going to gather, we are going to organize, we are going to play offense, we're going to get off our couches, we're going to put down our Twitter, and we're going to go organize the good old-fashioned way. We have the mass support on our side. When you look at these two pieces of legislation that are sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk, a universal background check, so that if you get a gun at a gun show, you got to get a background check. If you sell a firearm to someone else, you got to get a background check. Supported by 90% of the people in the United States of America. And now you have a bunch of politicians saying, yeah, we're going to talk about this. Yeah, we're going to have a conversation about background checks. We don't want a conversation about background checks. We want action on background checks. That's what we want here in the United States. We want action. We want them to do something in the United States, and we're going to let Sherrod Brown and others know we got his back when he goes and pushes Mitch McConnell to get this thing done. I just want to say one or two more things. When you see, and many of you know this 1,000 times better than I ever will, the ripple effect of these tragedies. When we were in Dayton, I can't tell you how many people I met who said one of the reporters was involved in a shooting at Florida State when she was in college. We met a guy who was in tears, and he said, I was in Charlottesville during the KKK rally, and I watched a human being die there. And now I'm in Dayton, in an area that I hang out in, and I've had to see this. And we went to dinner the night, after one of the nights in Dayton, and the woman who owned the restaurant says her nephew was down there, and he was safe, but he literally watched someone bleed out in front of him. And I said, how's he doing? And she said, he's a mess. And on and on and on. In this community in Cleveland, in Youngstown, in Akron, in Warren, in Columbus, in Toledo, in Biloxi, all over the United States, this is happening. It is time in our country's history. It's an inflection point in our country's history. It is our time. The moneyed interests, the big groups that have influenced the last 30 or 40 years, they've had their time. They've had their time. Their time is over. The people are coming back in the United States of America. And it's time for everybody within an earshot of this. You've got to go recruit other people to come into this movement around Moms Demand Action. There are so many moms. There are so many men strong enough to be moms. Where's my t-shirt like that? Ready to stand up. And I will tell you, as I go to restaurants around the country, people come up, Congressman, please do something. Congressman, I'm a Republican. Please do something. The ground has shifted under the feet of Mitch McConnell in the Republican Party, and the tidal wave is coming in the United States Senate. The tidal wave is coming in the United States Senate. The tidal wave of women and moms and kids is coming in the United States Senate. And we're going to say one last thing. Our kids are going to go to school to learn, and they're going to go to school with a Spider-Man backpack, not a bulletproof backpack. So when we were in Louisville, and I want to thank Natalia, who's here. 16-year-old Natalia who spoke. Give her a round of applause. Amazing. When we were in Louisville, we did the rally, and we showed up there in 24 hours. And we weren't sure how many people were going to show up. And someone said, well, maybe we should wait. I said, we're not waiting, we're going. We're going to play offense. I don't care if there's 50 people there. We're going to Louisville. We're going to let Mitch McConnell know that we're in his backyard, and we're going to let him know that we're going to demand action. And we showed up down there at the Ali Center within 24 hours. There were 1,400 to 1,500 people at the Muhammad Ali Center demanding action in Louisville, Kentucky. And so I just want to end with a quick Muhammad Ali story. So Ali lived in Kentucky, and one day he was walking down the street, and some guy went up to him and said, hey, champ, I saw you fight one time. And the champ said, oh, that's great. He said, yeah, it was a great fight, but you got knocked down in the third round. And Ali looked at him and said, wasn't my fight. And the guy said, no, it was your fight. I'll never forget being there. But it was great, but you got knocked down. He said, wasn't my fight. He said, my dad took me. It was like that father-son thing. And I'll never forget it. But you got knocked down in the third round. And Ali looked at him and said, wasn't my fight. I ain't never been knocked down. I'm either up or I'm getting up. Moms are never knocked down. Moms are either up or they're getting up. Dads are never knocked down. We're either up or we're getting up. Ohio's never knocked down. We're either up or we're getting up. America is never knocked down. We are either up or we're getting up. Thank you so much.
Okay, so really, how do you follow that? I'm not going to try. I will say thank you so much for coming. Which one? This one? Oh, there we go. So, again, I'm not going to try to follow that really. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all of our speakers. And thank you to our audience who is ready to go. I know that you are ready to go and start texting and start calling our senators, Senator Brown, Senator Portman, and it's important to call Senator Brown and say thank you for your support. We really appreciate it. And then you can call Senator Portman and give him some suggestions on how to support laws that make us safer.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming. Standing in the rain with me. We appreciate it. Enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you. It was nice meeting you too. Did you start school already? No, we started after Labor Day. I know. So I've already had 2 days. I've had 3 work days, so I'm like, I've got to go home and like, oh, got my restart right before Labor Day. Okay. Are you